Good evening. Welcome to our Twilight Talks on Faith. Tonight we are in Hebrews chapter 11 in verse 12. Tyler?
All times.
All right, I got it. Therefore, from one man, and him as good as dead, were born as many as the stars of the sky in multitude, innumerable as the sand which is by the seashore. And this is the promise that God had given to Abram back in Genesis 12, that of him he would make his name great, and of him he would make a great nation. Covenant he confirmed later on when he said, go out and look at the stars, your children shall be like the stars. You'll have difficulty numbering them. And then we find in Romans chapter 4 a passage that sheds a little bit more light on this for us, verses 16 through 21, I believe, Tyler.
Therefore it is of faith that it might be according to grace, so that the promise might be sure to all the seed, not only to those who are of the law, but also to those who are of the faith of Abraham, who is the father of us all. As it is written, I have made you a father of many nations, in the presence of him whom he believed, God who gives life to the dead and calls those things which do not exist as though they did, who contrary to hope and hope believed, so that he became the father of many nations according to what was spoken, so shall your descendants be. And not being weak in faith, he did not consider his own body already dead, since he was about 100 years old, and the deadness of Sarah's womb. He did not waver at the promise of God through unbelief, but was strengthened in faith, giving glory to God, and being fully convinced that what he had promised, he was also able to perform.
All right. And so what we find is that Abraham and Sarah had very similar faith. Abraham believed that what God had promised he was faithful to perform, and Sarah judged him faithful who had promised. And at the end of it, by natural hope, Abraham and Sarah had no hope. So he hoped against hope. He held on and he had hope in the promise of God, and he acted in faith based upon that promise until he received it from God. And, some people today, and the book of Hebrews will tell us this, he says, you have need of patience. You have need of patience. Because the simple fact is, you say, well, but brother, I prayed to God and I've waited, 3 minutes, and it didn't come exactly in 3 minutes. Or I prayed and it didn't come in 3 days or 3 weeks or 3 months. Well, Abraham, probably, he and Sarah probably could have had Isaac way earlier. But, Abraham by faith, he went walking and he didn't know where he was going. He just trusted God was going to take him there. God said, start walking. He said, all right, sir. But then he got somewhere and, well, now there's a little bit of drought and famine, and, I'm going to go down to Egypt. And it doesn't say God told him to. So then God had to do some intervening in Egypt. Then God had to do some intervening with Abimelech. Then God, because Abram and Sarah, they go the Ishmael route. You see, there were things in Abram's walk of faith that he was doing okay. Then he plateaued for a long period. And then he plateaued again. And I want to say to you and I that walking in faith, sometimes we plateau ourselves, and where the answer, Isaac could have come 12 years earlier. For all we know, God might have been ready to go on ahead and give them the Isaac, and then they came up with a plan and said, hey, go into Hagar, have a child by her, and we'll adopt her, Abram. Okay, Sarah, sounds like a good plan. For all we know, God might have been ready, but they came up with their own plan. That's the thing. But eventually they both got on the same page and placed by faith. And as it says there, therefore from one man, from him as good as dead, were born as many as the stars of the sky, and multitude innumerable as the sand which is by the seashore. 25 years. And that's why the verse I quoted is right there in Hebrews 10:36, Tyler, if you've got that. It
And which one?
Hebrews 10:36.
10:36. For you do not, or if you have need of endurance, for that after you have done the will of God, you may receive the promise.
All right. You have need of patience or endurance. Don't be deceived by our microwave culture. Life does not happen in 3-minute cycles. Life happens in 30-year, 60-year, 90-year cycles. So, I'll leave you with that thought for tonight as we get ready to close out this week. And Lord willing, we'll see you Sunday morning at 9:30 and 10:30. But let me ask you one question. Have you been more patient with people than you have been with your faith and faithfulness in trusting God? Just something to think about. Lord willing, we'll see you Sunday morning.